Hello, dear viewers. Today I'm going to be talking about how Donald Trump's absence from the White House has impacted the world, including India. Let's begin. Hello, welcome to Global Nationalism. I support nationalism in my country, India, and in all countries around the globe. Today I'm going to be talking about elections and do election analysis, specifically about the US presidential election. I want to explain that my opinion of Donald Trump and why I think he should be the next president. I don't know if he will. I don't want to make any predictions. I have no idea who's going to win, but I hope he wins. I want to explain what his loss in the 2020 election has caused the world to suffer from it, that the Biden government has damaged America's relations with foreign countries, including my own India, and why I think that this current administration should not continue with Kamala Harris as the president. So, yes, I hope that uh, President Trump wins, and I'm going to explain how his absence has harmed not just America and not just India, but the world at large. Disclaimer: I am not an American citizen. I am an Indian, and I do not uh, live in America. I live in India. I am not affiliated with any political campaign in the United States, and I have not gotten any money to make this content. I'm doing this completely independently and unpaid, and I do not intend to interfere in the American election. But and without further ado, let me start. What happened with the Biden administration and India? In April 2021, India was suffering from a large wave of COVID-19 cases. That there were certain export restrictions before COVID-19 materials, that vaccine materials that America had, that the Biden administration implemented. These were implemented in February, where Biden's government invoked the Defense Production Act, which gives the power to control the distribution of products to curb the export of raw materials critical for vaccine production. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar raised the matter with Secretary of State Antony Blinken when they spoke on April 19th. This was because India was manufacturing COVID-19 vaccines and needed the raw material to be exported from the US to it. And the Biden administration had placed curbs on that export. And the US defended the curbs, saying the Biden administration's priority is to meet the vaccine requirements of the American people. At that time, US State Department spokesperson Ned Price had pointed to arrangements between the US and members of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue Quad on vaccine production, including increased production capacity in India, but did not say whether or when the US would ease curbs on export of vaccine raw materials. Then, on later in April 26th, Biden announced on Twitter that his administration is determined for India to take tide over the crisis of coronavirus, and that he will assure India to supply raw materials required for the Pune-based Serum Institute of India. So this hurt India's and America's relationship because it made India's uh, government and people believe that somehow the Biden government, the US government, was withholding key aid that could help India in its COVID-19 crisis. It was the worst wave in India's COVID-19 pandemic. And yeah, there was a lot of anger against America, especially Biden. And at this time, some people were thinking that somehow the Biden government wanted the crisis to get worse in India, and that this was somehow part of some regime change strategy. Next thing is when a US Navy ship violated Indian law as it sailed through an exclusive zone in messaging to China. And actually, this was a little before the COVID-19 crisis, restrictions on vaccines material, 9th April, and the crisis for the COVID crisis in India occurred kind of at this time. So both these incidents affected Biden's reputation in India at the same time. A US guided missile destroyer sailed through India's exclusive economic zone, 130 nautical miles west of the Lakshadweep Islands, without intimidating India, in violation of the Indian law. Messaging to China than anything else. A statement released by the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet said on 7, 2021, USS John Paul Jones asserted navigational rights and freedoms approximately 130 nautical miles west of the Lakshadweep Islands inside India's exclusive economic zone without requesting prior consent, consistent with international law. It said India requires prior consent for military exercises or maneuvers in its EEZ or continental shelf, added that this claim is inconsistent with international law. External Affairs, however, raised concerns through diplomatic channels over the passage of USS John Paul Jones through its EEZ and noted the country's adherence to the United Nations Convention for the Law of the Seas. According to the UNCLOS 1982, to which India is a signatory, waters up to 12 nautical miles of a coastline is that country's sovereign waters, and between 120 and 200 nautical miles, it's easy. Both India and China have made their own rules with regards to this despite being a signatory to the international convention. India says foreign vessels traveling through India's EEZ has to give prior notification, while China says foreign countries need permission from Beijing. While the Indian Navy has yet to respond, former Navy Chief Admiral Arun Prakash told the print, this action, especially publicizing it, was both uncalled for and unnecessary, especially in context of a friend and strategic partner. Explaining the nuances of the US move, the Admiral said it was a messaging to China. The UN is quoting UNCLOS 1982, which it has not ratified. India has ratified the law, but says that prior information is necessary to pass through the EEZ, exclusive economic zone, innocently, but you need India's prior intimation. It should have been asked by the US government that you should have recognized and respected that India's laws in its EEZ are different than international law. It should have just followed them. If you disagree with them, you can talk to India and ask India to change them. And if India changes them, then you can pass through without getting consent. But until then, follow the law of the country. Don't push India around. Don't force it in a way to change its laws. And this step is actually part of its messaging to China. Still not good. You don't disrespect your friends' uh, waters like this. India has not gone beyond its easy, not gone beyond its territorial waters and claimed open sea. So yeah, this is which is what China has done. China has built islands in the South China Sea, which have expanded its territorial waters illegally against international law and has violated the laws of other countries in the South China Sea. So that's why that's a problem. Like the US shouldn't be equating India to China. It's not proper. It's not the way you treat a strategic partner. It's bad for the relationship. And in this article by Foreign Policy, it says how US pressure helped save Brazil's democracy. Mounting evidence suggests Biden kept pro Bolsonaro generals from executing a coup. The Biden government should, or the US government in general, should not be speaking to uh, generals of another country with respect to internal matters of that country. They should only talk to them about military matters that affect the United States and not that affect the country internally. It's none of America's business. 2 weeks ago, Brazil's this is an article from February 20th, 2024. Brazil's federal police launched a high profile raid against former President Jair Bolsonaro and more than 10 of his allies, including Brazil's former Navy chief, National Security Advisor, and Ministers of Defense and Justice. Authorities accused the group of plotting a potential coup after Bolsonaro's failed 2022 re election bid. And court documents related to the raid suggested that Bolsonaro personally edited a decree that would have overturned election results and imprisoned the Supreme Court justice. A general loyal to the president confirmed that he would provide the troops necessary to carry out the coup. Bolsonaro also allegedly pressured his cabinet to more forcefully share disinformation about supposed weaknesses in Brazil's electoral system. The former president was asked to hand over his passport to authorities and may face decades in jail. Now, I don't know if Bolsonaro's accusations again of election fraud are accurate, and however, I do think that this act of raiding him and his allies, including former military officials, is uh, undemocratic for Brazil's government to do, and it's normally something that the U.S. government would criticize. The recent revelation suggests that Brazilian coup mongers' plans were more advanced than initially believed, and that they did not get their way because of concerted pro-democracy efforts by U.S. President Joe Biden, seriously overlooked. A chief told Bolsonaro government not to best mess with Brazil election. Sources say, again, not uh, your place to say that. The US Central Intelligence Agency director last year told senior Brazilian officials that President Jair Bolsonaro should stop casting doubt on his country's voting system ahead of the October election, sources told Reuters. This was in May 1st, 2022, this article, and the previously unreported comments by CIA Director William Burns came in an intimate closed door meeting in July, according to two people familiar with the matter who spoke on condition of anonymity. A third person in Washington familiar with the matter confirmed that a delegation led by Burns had told top Bolsonaro aides the president should stop undermining confidence in Brazil's voting system. Again, none of your business. Bolsonaro's government can and Brazil's government can say whatever they want about Brazil's voting system as long as it's within the confines of Brazilian law. America has no say in it. They should keep quiet on this matter. Financial aid 22-month program and the conspiracy at heart. Secret documents reveal how US aid orchestrated the successful regime change in Bangladesh. The Guardian noted that IRI, I don't know what that is, tasked to implement projects funded by US aid, ran a sinister program named Paris for 22 months to enhance political participation of Bangladeshis and amplify anti authoritarian voices. The role of the United States and its government agencies in the undemocratic ouster of Sheikh Hasina as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh is becoming clearer by the day. This is an article by Op India. Sheikh Hasina left government this year from Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is now under the governance of um, an interim government. The controversial United States Agency for International Development signed an agreement to provide $202 million to the interim government in Bangladesh, led by an American, what this Op India website calls Muhammad Yunus, an American asset. The objective on paper behind the financial aid is supposedly to empower youth, strengthen democracy and governance, and bring about development in Bangladesh. This is basically saying that we support this government, and so it is democratic. That government we didn't support, and it's not democratic. That's how the U.S. views democracy. Now, I've spoken about Sheikh Hasina in previous videos. I do believe that uh, she was not fully democratic, and I understand that many Bangladeshis believe that her elections were fraudulent, but that's no reason for the US to get involved. The US should have stayed out of it. It's not, it is Bangladeshis who had to resolve that problem. The US and Americans and any other country, including India, I'll mention India specifically, have no role in that. It's an internal matter of Bangladesh. And Netanyahu, who is like Modi and Bolsonaro, was a nationalist leader of Israel. He alleged Israeli election fraud, accused his rival of duplicity. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday a newly formed Israeli coalition that is poised to unseat him was a result of the greatest election fraud in the history of democracy. Hours after Netanyahu's comments, Naftali Bennett, a nationalist set to replace him as prime minister, called on Israel's longest serving leader not to leave scorched earth behind and accept that people are allowed to establish a government even if you don't head it. Now, that's true, but the elections should be fair. And it's just weird that Trump, Bolsonaro, and now Netanyahu claim that their elections were fraudulent. And this happened all during Biden's term. And we know, and I've shown you some evidence that that Biden's government has been interfering in internal affairs of other countries. We say from this is that the Biden government has been involved in internal affairs of other countries against the will of those countries. In India, they've been biased against Modi. They're with their restrictions on COVID, raw material imports, and sending a navy ship into India's waters without India's permission, and that they also later this year that the U.S. embassy said that they were going to hire influencers to speak against the Modi government. And the New York Times, America's media, and other has made advertisements in India asking for to hire people who were anti-Modi. I'll share links to that in the description to all these stories. So yeah, America's deep state is the anti-Modi and wants him removed. And Hollywood stars like Mark Ruffalo were against Bolsonaro, so that shows a lot of people in Hollywood were against him. And the Biden government was biased against him because they portrayed him as bad for the Brazilian environment. And they, as we can have seen, they were involved in Brazil's election, trying to speak to their generals, which is not their place. And Netanyahu also claimed that there was election fraud, which might have been caused by America's deep state, since America is an ally of Israel, and Biden is unfriendly to Netanyahu. So, yeah, this is the problem with globalists like Democrats. They want to convert the whole world into their style of governance, their form of uh, their ideology. They want everyone in the world to hold their beliefs, their ideologies, and are doing it by interfering in other countries' affairs, which is wrong in my opinion. This wasn't very prominent in Donald Trump's administration. At least he didn't uh, consciously advance these efforts. There was, in fact, obstruction to the American deep state himself. And with his removal, the deep state became more aggressive against other countries around the world. So yeah, he his absence hurt the world, hurt America as well. And I hope he comes back. I really hope he wins this election. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to see other videos about elections, click here. If you want to see my previous video, click here. If you want to see the sources I use for this video, click the links in the description below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.